Item number 8, public hearings. Notices have been published, posted, and mailed. The first item is item A, and we'll do both of these together. Hold a public hearing, waive the first reading, and introduce ordinance opposing a 2.3% rate increase requested by Recology of San Bruno for 2012-2013 to be effective July 1st, 2012, as presented in the notice of proposed increase mailed to all property owners. And item number B, hold a public hearing, waive the first reading, and introduce ordinances adjusting water and wastewater rates as presented in the notice of proposed increase mailed to all property owners. Now, this is how we're going to handle it because we have a fair-sized crowd here this evening. If you don't already know, we do have some speaker cards, and the city clerk, if you raise your hand, we want you to fill out a speaker card before you address the council. And we will be talking about garbage first, and this is how we're going to handle these items. The city manager and our director of finance will give the staff report. When I open the public hearing, everyone who wishes will get a chance to speak and or ask questions. We have quite a crowd, so I ask that if you wish to address the council, you fill out a comment card. I will then call you by name. You will be allowed up to 3 minutes to complete your comments. We have staff writing down your questions, and we will answer them after I close the public hearing, just prior to council comments and action. Staff report, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, what we would like to do in the staff report this evening is first to, with a relatively simple and brief presentation, address the issues that are specifically relevant to the solid waste or garbage rate increase. Our Finance Director, Kim Duran, will make that short presentation. Then I will have some comments followed by her comments related to the water and wastewater rates, and then we'll proceed, as you indicated, to the public hearing, at which time anybody in the audience who wishes to speak may do so. You have in front of you a complete transcript of all of the written comments that the city has received over the last 45-day notice period as required by Proposition 218. Delivered to you tonight. You had in your packet, we delivered to you previously, all of the comments received and all of the official protests received as of May 1st. We've supplemented that tonight with all of the comments and protests that have been received as of the close of business today. And for the purposes of the audience's information, what the City Council has is the names and addresses of every person who made a protest, as well as any of the members of our community who provided any additional written notations or comments that was delivered along with the protest itself. All of those comments have been copied and provided to the City Council so that they have everything, you have everything that was received by the city. So with that, I'll ask Kim to give us a brief presentation on the Recology rate increase proposal, and then we'll speak more specifically about the water and wastewater rate proposals.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, in accordance with their franchise agreement, Recology San Bruno is entitled to rate adjustments based on a detailed rate analysis every 3 years and interim rate analysis for the other 2 years in between those detailed rate years. The 2012-13 rate year represents the second interim rate adjustment year and is limited to an adjustment of 80% of the CPI for wage earners in the San Francisco Bay Area and a percentage increase for allowable pass-through disposal fees. The net result of these two adjustments for the 2012-13 rate year equates to a 2.341% rate increase for garbage and recycling rates. The proposed rate adjustment for some of the more common garbage services is provided on the screen behind me. And just a reminder, we did implement a 20-gallon toter this current fiscal year, so I've included that to remind everyone of that option as well. In addition, this slide was provided previously back in March and just shows that San Bruno's rates in comparison to other neighboring agencies. Garbage rates vary depending on a number of factors, including the frequency of recycling, as well as whether an agency offers an organics program. So you can see that San Bruno's rates fall into the middle of the range here. So the Proposition 218 notice was mailed on March 21st, and that began the 45-day protest period. We received a total of 53 confirmed property owner notice protests and an additional 2 objections. That concludes the presentation. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Does the council have any questions regarding garbage rates? All right, let's go right on into item B, which is the water and wastewater.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The remainder of this presentation will address a number of issues related to the development of the proposed rate increases for the city's water and wastewater or sewer enterprises, the need for the increases in order to assure the continued reliable delivery of high-quality water and wastewater services, and the comments that we have received over the past 45 days in response to the mailed notice that we've just discussed. Just to restate the Mayor's comments regarding the procedure that we will use tonight, it will be our intent to answer any and all questions that are raised by the public during the public comment section of the agenda tonight. Certainly if we don't know the answer or can't immediately provide it, we will make sure that that answer is provided to the City Council and to the public subsequently. It's our intent to answer all of the comments and questions in one at one time following the close of the public hearing. So we want to make sure that everybody who took the time to come out tonight has an ample opportunity to speak to you and for you to hear and for us to address as necessary those comments and concerns. If it is the Council's interest to proceed tonight as outlined in the agenda, there are 2 separate ordinances for water, one for wastewater, and a third action related to garbage that should be taken separately by the City Council. The items require a first reading followed by a second reading, which is currently scheduled for your next meeting on May 22nd. And any action that the City Council may contemplate to approve rate increases will not be final until that second reading has occurred and 30 days elapse subsequent to that second reading. Again, the presentation tonight will be made in 2 parts. I'm providing an overview, and the Finance Director will summarize the various topics related to the rates themselves and provide a little bit of additional detail, although we are relying on the detail that you previously received at the meeting in March, at which time you directed the dissemination of the mailed property owner notice. So it's not our intent to spend the time tonight restating many of the details. We're trying to focus on those items that may be most relevant to members of the public and to your consideration. There are a number of staff people present tonight, along with a representative from Bartle Wells Associates, who can assist with responding to any of the more technical questions. So as to the overview, the rate increase proposed tonight at approximately 10% annually is a significant amount. As many of the written comments that we've received state, some of our residents, our ratepayers, may experience difficulty to absorb the increased rates in their household budgets. This may be especially true for senior residents on a fixed income and for those who have been affected adversely by the current state of the economy regionally and locally. Some comments have referenced some incorrect information that has been circulated recently in the community. That information specifically is that the rate is proposed to increase by over 20% annually and then compounded annually for each of the next 5 years, reaching, according to that calculation, an approximate 150% increase at the 5th year of the proposed rate program. And I want to correct that information first in order that given that the proposed rate is itself significant, that in fact we're dealing with correct information. While in San Bruno, we do collect water, sewer, and garbage charges on the same bill on a bi-monthly basis. And in fact, I don't know of another city where that is actually the case. In other words, in many, if not most cases, garbage rates are collected by the company, by the franchise hauler itself. And in many others, sewer charges are actually collected on the property tax bill. That is not the case in San Bruno. We collect all 3 of those utility rate amounts on the same bill. However, the rate increase that you're considering tonight has been separately identified for each of those 3 services, and in fact, it is separately calculated. Tonight, you're considering a 9.8% increase for the water charges, and only that portion of the bill that is attributable to water service will be subject to the 9.8% increase. Similarly, for wastewater service with a 10.3% increase, garbage for the 2.34% increase. We have distributed in the audience tonight a chart that shows, and this slide on the screen tonight summarizes the cumulative impact of the rate as calculated as I've indicated. The handout that we've provided, and which is available at the table at the door, provides a great deal more detail. Our intent simply is to illustrate how the rate is calculated, how it is applied, and the fact that rather than compounding to an amount of 150% or more, in fact, the actual amount of the increase is less than what some may have heard by information being disseminated by others in the community. That information covered still our proposal and your decision to raise rates or to consider raising rates is not an easy one, and it's not being taken lightly. While we might wish to push off or to ignore operating and improvement needs, assuming that what is out of sight is in fact also able to be continued out of mind, we cannot do that. Unfortunately, it is necessary for those of us who are responsible for the delivery of reliable services to meet the mandates which the city must adhere to, and to assure and secure the community's current and future utility service requirements. Again, unfortunately, the cost of the service is high. We have taken steps to minimize the amount of the necessary rate increase, and Ms. Duran will summarize those as part of her presentation, and will outline those initiatives. We've also heard and we've understood the suggestion that's been made by several of the persons who have, whose comments you have before you tonight, who've taken the time to write specific notes to us, that the city should use the settlement funds from PG&E to cover costs associated with the necessary investment in our infrastructure. As previously reported to the City Council, the agreement reached in settlement with PG&E requires the establishment of a separate legal entity, a separate not-for-profit public benefit entity that will assume the responsibility for management of the funds that have been paid by PG&E and for ultimately for the decision-making about their distribution and their use for the benefit of the community as a whole. As I've reported to the City Council previously, the work and the decision-making to properly structure that nonprofit and to get it up and running, and then to provide for the opportunity for public participation in that decision-making process, while underway, is far from complete and is likely not to be completed for another 9 to 12 months. That's at least my current estimate. Again, we take that process seriously and are attacking it deliberately in order that we both meet the specific terms and requirements of the settlement with PG&E, and we also make sure that the necessary steps are taken to provide a thoughtful and deliberative process to utilize those resources in the best possible way. Just as a side note, in the approximately 45 days since the settlement was reached with PG&E, or maybe a little bit longer now, the number and the cost of the many different proposals that we've heard and that have been discussed within the community, were they to all be undertaken, would certainly at least meet, if not far exceed, the large amount of the $70 million settlement fund. So again, I believe that that will be a time-consuming and somewhat challenging, but we're pleased to have the opportunity to engage this process at the appropriate time and with the appropriate thought and care that both the settlement agreement requires and that this community both deserves and expects. So with that, Kim will go through some of the details, and then we will look forward to hearing the public comment.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Just as a starting point, to update everyone on the number of protests that we have received as of the close of business today. We had 330 confirmed property owner protests, and in addition, we received an additional 20 objections from other members of the public. As some background, the City Council, during the last rate adjustment process, approved an increase for water rates, a 3-year increase in water rates of 11.78% and a 10.16% for sewer, to meet objectives and priorities that include the rehabilitation and replacement of all water mains in 20 years and all sewer mains in 25 years. You also voted to maintain a level rate increase, meaning rather than to spike the rates 1 year and then reduce them dramatically the next year, the direction was to maintain a level rate increase that essentially allowed the rates to be paid by over a period of time where the users of the system were paying for those improvements that they are benefiting from. In addition, the continued rehabilitation of pump stations and wells in the water system to reduce the city's reliance on purchased water. To start with that direction in mind, we approached this rate study with some background and objectives in mind. First of all, water and sewer utilities are self-supporting enterprise funds. They are supported and funded only through the rates that we charge to the users of the system. These rates are the main source of revenue and must be adequate to fund the long-term operating, maintenance, and capital needs. And as has been said previously, the city's aging water and sewer systems are facing $180 million worth of capital improvement needs over the next 10 years. Many of the sewers, water and sewer mains are 60 years old, and some are even in excess of 100 years old. The proposed rates that are before you this evening are designed to recover the cost of providing the service. They're designed to be fair and equitable to all customers, meaning that those who are using the service are paying a charge that is comparable to the benefit they are getting from the system. In addition, as stated earlier, we are gradually phasing in the rate adjustments over the next 5 years to help meet the long-term funding needs and to minimize the annual impact on ratepayers. So again, rather than to spike the rates in 1 year and dramatically reduce them in a subsequent year. The proposed rates are a steady rate increase. Comparability between other agencies are at the March 13th City Council meeting, staff provided a chart that showed that San Bruno's rates for both water and sewer were among the middle to the middle upper in comparison to neighboring agencies. Rate comparability is difficult in that a number of factors impact the rates, and they vary between agencies. Staff did some additional research since that March 13th meeting and found that the amount that cities pay for operation costs, salaries, and so forth are in fact fairly equitable across many agencies. And what one of the major drivers of rates are and what the rate differences between agencies comes from a city's and agency's investment in its capital program. So the investment that we're making in our capital program is in fact reflected in those rates. And at that same meeting, I think there was a question, how does San Bruno compare to San Carlos, given that the demographics, residential versus commercial breakdown is somewhat similar to San Bruno. Staff had conversations with the city of San Carlos following that meeting and learned from San Carlos staff that they are in fact facing the same infrastructure issues that we're facing here. What we learned is that they're not quite as far progressed as we are in the planning stages. And so their rates right now do not reflect the investment that they will need to make over the next 10 years in their system. In addition, San Carlos, and as well as some other agencies in the southern San Mateo County area, are faced with the $400 million treatment plant rebuild for their wastewater that none of those agencies have yet factored into their rates. So that's a significant improvement that they will have to face in the coming years. So why do we need to increase the rates? It really revolves around the capital investment that is needed to maintain a safe and reliable utility system to the residents and ratepayers in San Bruno. In addition, we are facing significant increases in the cost to purchase water from the SFPUC in the next 5 years. Rates are projected to increase 54%. The Regional Water Quality Control Board and the Baykeepers Consent Decree mandate an aggressive system maintenance and improvement program. Much of the capital program planned in the next 5 years for sewer is a result of not only things that the city planned on doing, but items that are required as a result of these mandates. And finally, normal operating and supply costs continue to increase. Chemicals to treat water continue to increase. Supplies increase just as they are everywhere. So we are facing those same challenges that all agencies are facing. The next few slides that I'm going to show you are really just some examples of the state of our infrastructure and what some of the staff have been dealing with as far as repairs and breaks to primarily the sewer system and the photos here. And in addition, I believe there's a piece of water pipe at the table over there that shows the amount of corrosion that exists on some of our infrastructure. So this is a broken sewer main and just another view of that same sewer main. This is an example of a sanitary sewer overflow from a city sewer main in somebody's backyard. This is a sinkhole that resulted in a resident's driveway from a broken city sewer main. And this is that same sinkhole, and actually the vehicle in the driveway apparently drove into that sinkhole and was able to get out, but this is in somebody's private property. This is a photo of a sewer main replacement project on Mastic where about approximately 1.5 miles of sewer main was replaced recently. And just another shot of that same sewer work on Mastic. So how will the funds be spent? It's really the capital program, the replacement of 11 additional miles of water mains in the next 5 years, and the replacement of 15 miles of sewer mains. There's a project to construct a new sewer main at Keynes Avenue and San Mateo Avenue. Rehabilitation of College Water Pump Station. This project will ensure the reliability of water delivery to Skyline College and the neighborhoods surrounding. The replacement and rehabilitation of the Glenview water tank to bring it back to its full capacity. the replacement of the Commodore Park well, which will allow the city to reduce its dependence on purchased water. And finally, to fund the improvements necessary to make improvements at the jointly owned wastewater treatment plant in South San Francisco. The city has worked with the city of South San Francisco on the plan to make these improvements. We have made efforts to contain costs on that project wherever possible. And the city's San Bruno's share of those improvements over the next 5 years is in excess of $7 million. And what have we done to contain costs? We have contained staff salaries and benefits, and just for a frame of reference, city staff that work for the for the enterprise funds haven't had a salary increase since 2007. We've replaced the aging infrastructure to reduce operation costs as time progresses. We've implemented an automated monitoring system, a SCADA system, which reduces costs, increases performance by allowing staff to have a better control of the system and to be able to implement improvements and necessary changes remotely rather than in the field. Staff is continuing to develop water and sewer master plans to give us a better understanding of the needs of the system and to be able to identify those necessary improvements that need to be made. As I already stated, we've continued to work with the City of South San Francisco to contain costs on the shared treatment plant improvements. We've done everything possible to reduce our reliance on purchased water by increasing our local supply. And the rate increase proposal anticipates the use of subsidized low-interest financing grant whenever possible in order to stabilize the rates. It does not, there's no pay-as-you-go system in place with the rate structure, as that would require more dramatic rate increases. So the rate plan does anticipate the use of low-interest financing to fund these improvements. Some additional rate changes that were made and factors that we took into consideration when we did the rate study. There were some structural changes made to the rates themselves, primarily an adjustment to align the fixed water and sewer charges. These are really meter charges, is how they're referred to align those with capacity, so that those larger meters with larger capacity are paying their fair share of the amount of system that they use. We've included the addition of a third tier for water consumption charges. This addition of a third tier provides a more incremental jump from one tier to the next in comparison to our current two-tier structure. This is done to encourage conservation, to give people an incentive to use less water. It is not done to generate additional revenue and it will not result in additional revenue. It is purely done from the standpoint of trying to encourage conservation. And finally, we also looked at the low-income program. The city offers a 25% discount for qualifying customers. The low-income program is actually funded with delinquent charges from water and sewer bills. We are not allowed to use regular ratepayer rates to fund the low-income program. They have to be from a separate funding source. So what we did as part of this rate study was ensure that the amount of charges that were generated from the delinquencies for water and sewer charges were adequate to continue offering the low-income program, which we did assure that it is. One change I'd like to highlight from the notice that was sent out, the Prop 218 notice proposed a meter charge for water, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and a 1.5 inch meter as shown on this slide. Essentially, anybody who's remodeling or rebuilding a home nowadays for fire flow purposes is required to have a larger meter. So the old standard was a 3/4 inch meter. Nowadays, it's a 1 to 1.5 inch meter. So those individuals who have recently remodeled or built a new home were going to see a very dramatic increase due to the change in the meter charges. What staff has since proposed doing and what is included in the ordinance that's before you tonight is to have all single-family homes charged one rate, which is equivalent to the 3/4 inch meter rate that is highlighted in that slide. So even though you have a 1 inch or a 1.5 inch meter at your home, you will only be assessed a charge at the 3/4 equivalent to the 3/4 inch meter. So the schedule, as the city manager stated earlier, that tonight would be to introduce the ordinance, and at the meeting on May 22nd would be a second reading of the ordinance with the proposed rates going into effect on July 1st, 2012. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you both for what I think is a very thorough, concise report. Hopefully we answered a lot of questions already, but we'll find out. The City Council have any questions of staff now before we open the public hearing or comments? Michael?
Through the chair. One question I've been hearing a lot from the public is, where does it all end? And I know we're considering now a 5-year rate structure that funds a 10-year financing plan that then translates into a 20 to 25-year replacement plan. So there's a lot of different time horizons, and I think we started raising rates a few years back, so we've had a few years of increases already. We're looking at probably a good 10 years of rate increases. At the end of those 10 years, can we expect rates to come back down? Are we going to see additional 10% increases indefinitely until?
Yes, so the short answer to that question is that the reason for taking a long-term horizon is for the opportunity to predict and stabilize the necessary revenue requirements to maintain the system and to perform necessary rehabilitation and replacement. As it's currently structured, the intent is, or the projections are, that the rates following the 10-year planning horizon that is currently in front of you would stabilize, meaning that there would not be a need for increases that at this level. I think it would probably be, since we don't want to lead people astray, I think it would be incorrect to suggest that the rate itself might decrease, but it is our clear expectation that the rate of increase would stabilize and not be as significant as is currently in front of you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That does answer the question, but just to clarify that, we are saying that over 10 years then we would be in the 90 to 100% increase from today before we're done.
Correct. Now, what's in front of you tonight is a planning horizon and a 5-year implementation. We would anticipate, just as we did, we presented to the City Council in 2009, the expectation that we would then carefully evaluate the rates at the end of the implementation period. In that case, it was 3 years. So 5 years from now, assuming if the City Council determines that a 5-year rate implementation is appropriate, we would come back in 5 years with another detailed assessment of the rate requirement. We've projected it, but we would check it and confirm it or amend it at that time.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this time?
All right, I'm going to throw out some hypothetics here, and I realize that we can't go back in time and say, but why are we here at this point? And I realize that costs rises, everything's increasing. But what if we were prudent 30 years or 40 years ago? I mean, we wouldn't be paying the same amount that Foster City is doing. I mean, a younger community. And so just briefly explain how we got to this point. And then also because of the fact that, this majority of this council has been raising rates and looking to the future since 1998. So I think we've done, some due diligence to take care of this issue. But also spend a little, say something about what if we don't.
So the first thing I'm going to say is what we do, and then I'll say what we don't or what we didn't. First is that this city has historically placed a high priority on its ability to maintain a flexible water delivery system. And what I mean by that is that it has long been the city council's and prior city council's priority to maintain investment in its water production system in order to minimize its reliance on purchased water. And although the rate increases that have been imposed by the San Francisco PUC and that are continuing, and again, I would note that those are related to their capital improvement program to improve and situate the seismic reliability of their system as it brings water from the Hetch Hetchy in the Yosemite Valley, the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir, all the way up to San Francisco and San Bruno. Although rate increases of the amounts in the sharp incline that we've seen have been relatively recent over the past several years and continuing, you're always subject to the vagaries of somebody else's decision making when you purchase water and you don't control the manner and the costs and how that water is produced. So the one good thing that the city has historically done for a long period of time is to prioritize its investment in its flexibility and its ability to control to a reasonable extent its own destiny in the production of water. I would say what the city may not have done as aggressively as we would like to, with hindsight, say occurred, and that is to maintain an awareness and an adequately aggressive investment program in the maintenance, repair, and replacement rehabilitation of its underground and above ground infrastructure. The City Council first took this on in the 2000 time period, late 1990s, with the establishment of the city's first ever water and wastewater master plans. Those master plans guided what are primarily capacity improving infrastructure improvements, which have been completed. We are in the process now, we're at virtual completion of the water master plan and are progressing well with the completion of an updated wastewater master plan to, again, take a hard and comprehensive look at the system needs, to define what those priorities should be, the time schedule for the investment, and to identify costs associated with the improvement of the infrastructure. As Ms. Duran indicated earlier, there are many other cities up and down the peninsula and elsewhere in our region that are just now beginning those procedures and have not yet undertaken what is an extended planning period in order to get to the point where you know what investment needs to be made, what are the priorities, and what are the costs. I hope that answers the question.
Half of it.
What's the other half?
What if we did what everyone wants here and don't do anything? What if we don't raise rates? Or what if we cut rates?
You certainly have the ability to do that. And I think that in some respects, that's certainly something that you have to think carefully about. Based on the analysis that we have done with the assistance of the 10-year planning horizon, it is abundantly clear, in staff's opinion, that the revenue necessary in order to do what needs to be done to meet the priorities outlined in the master plans would not be available. So at that point, you would have to consider either spiking the rates in order to quickly hurry up and be able to produce the necessary cash flow in order to do the improvements, or you would find yourself in the unfortunate position, I guess, that this city may have experienced in previous years of simply deferring or foregoing the improvements and continuing to patch the system as catch can.
All right. Any questions of staff or comments? Just one little thing I want to mention, too, which is kind of dear to my heart, is that we have had a lot of sanitary sewer overflows. And because of that, we've been sued. And because of that, we've had to budget and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to the baykeepers, their lawyers, their legal fees, the water district, money that goes to them for whatever they want to put it towards and doesn't go back into our streets. It's very frustrating for me. It's not right. We're working on trying to correct that. Long legislative process. But unfortunately, all of that money that should be put back into repairing what we're budgeting for today goes someplace else. So what we're trying to do here is not just maintain, but to improve. In 10, 8, 9, 10 years, we will, in fact, if all goes well, have a system where we're not going to have any or hardly any sanitary sewer overflows, and we'll be able to maintain the system without having to dig up the streets over and over and over again. So we have taken a very aggressive stand over the last 14 or 15 years in this city, and it doesn't help you at all or help your pocketbooks or my pocketbook, because I pay the same as you, to say, we're in the middle of the peninsula and don't feel bad because you're paying less than somebody else or a little bit more than somebody else. A lot of other cities, unfortunately, are going to really get hit hard. We're looking at Hetchetchee in the future increasing their rates by 54%. Heard tonight Sacramento is a 50% right off the top, and they have a $1 billion sewage treatment issue that they have to deal with. A little further south of us, they have a $400 million sewer treatment issue they have to deal with, and we have, with diligence, worked with South San Francisco because we own a third of that plant to keep it on track. So it's not just raising the rates, believe me, it's more than that. So we have tried internally to make those adjustments and to feel the pain. Unfortunately, it is pain. It's not easy. So at this point in time, I'd like to open the public hearing, and I'd like to hear your comments at the podium. We do have tonight, we're going to have speaker cards. If you'd like to speak, please fill out a card. And the first people we will hear from are people that want to speak to us on the garbage rate increase. And I'll start with Mr. Jack Boland. Is Jack here? Could you come to the podium, please, Jack?
Mayor Wayne?
Yes.
As a point of, just so it's clear to the public, so if people have comments on both topics, that they'll be allowed to speak twice?
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair. This is a big issue.
My name is Jack Boland. I'm a resident at Peninsula Place. I served 16 years on the board, 5 years as president, 11 years as treasurer. I recently stepped down. I would like to know why Peninsula Place can't put their garbage out to competitive bidding. We have a $3.5 million budget, and it's just so big to be tied down by a monopoly that basically runs the whole peninsula. And I was wondering if you have any comments to that. We're being grossly overcharged. Let me give you an example. We rode over today. There was 5 of us in the car, representing 5 separate units. Out of those 5 units, there was a total of 7 residents in those units. Yet we're being charged like a single detached house. And it's for 7 units. That could be enough for one house. We're being grossly overcharged, and we feel that it's nothing short of racketeering what the city's doing to us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. As I said, staff is staff is writing these questions down, and when we close the public hearing, we'll get some answers for you. Thank you, Jack. Russell Steins. Russell.
Hi, my name is Russell Steins. I'm a small business owner in San Bruno and a resident for quite a while. I have found over the years that everything's been going up: water, waste, garbage. I know we're only supposed to be talking about garbage, but it just continues to go up. I've seen many of my neighbors and friends lose their homes, their jobs. we're in a recession. I don't know if you guys feel it up there. I don't know how that works, if you guys get paid by the city, which is us, or, I personally, my businesses went down by 35% a year in the last 3 years. So, I'm thinking that the garbage men's wages have went down 35% in the last 3 years. The water guys hasn't went down 35% in the last 3 years. She's telling me most pipes are 6 years old. There's some pipes that are 100 years old. Well, hey, then let's keep the pipes for another 40 years. So, I've been getting nickeled and dimed to death by San Bruno since I moved here 10 years ago, and it just continues to go between everything you guys keep doing. You just keep jacking everything up, and it's just, somebody's got to stop and say, hey, what about the ordinary homeowner here? Our prices of our homes have went down by 25, 30%. We're underwater. Our businesses are hurting. Our neighbors are having to leave, and it's just wrong. And, it's a great sales pitch over here, but it's just a sales pitch. So, and suing, as far as suing goes, always going to be lawsuits. There's a million lawyers. There's going to be a million lawsuits. No matter if you replace the water tomorrow or in 40 years from now, somebody's going to find a reason to sue you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Henry Schaff.
My name is Hank Chaff, and I live on Fasman Drive. I've been a resident of this city for many years, and what I see now is tragic. I don't know if all these people know that we only get half our drinking water from wells and half from hatcheries.
Excuse me for a moment, Henry. Could you have a cell phone going off? Could you please turn them off? Thank you. Appreciate that.
We
Please,
get our water,
thank you.
half our water from the wells of the city. We had one council member who retired or lost the election. Begged for more wells. Begged for more wells. And the three who turned them down are sitting on that council right now. But this gentleman, he begged for more wells, and we never did it. And going for this, the new price hikes, how come you don't put a bond on the agenda and have an overseer? Because if this rate goes through, they can put the money anywhere they want with this new rate increase. And don't forget, the salaries that these people get in staff are astronomical. I mean, you're talking a couple $100,000 a year with pay raises. So they can afford these price hikes. I can't. I really can't. I think it's a shame. You're going to have lawns and no water. I'm surprised it even came up. I can't understand that you don't have a bond measure. What about the $70 million you get from PG&E? Put that in the sewer system if it's a priority, new pipes, instead of a library. And as far as the garbage is concerned, we have excellent garbage service in the city of San Bruno. But one tragic thing, it's a monopoly. You can only get a debris box. If you want a debris box, it has to come from San Bruno Garbage or Recology. You can't get them from anywhere else. And they want, what, a 2.5% raise? Have you seen the P&L statements? Is this raise justified? I never seen a garbage company go out of business. Never. Has anyone seen a garbage company go out of business? Never. I want to know if this rate is justified. It's not a big raise, but still it's hurting us. Everything's going up, like the gentleman before me. Everything is going sky high. So what are we going to do? You can use a lot of that $70 million that you get from PG&E instead of a library or whatever. You use it for the new piping. They say it's priority and it's got to be done. Well,
thank you. Barbara Larea.
Good evening, Mayor. This is for garbage now, and you'll have a separate one for water and sewer. I just want to say that I really do like the garbage company. I've always thought they did a good job. However, I found it amusing when we had the staff report, and they mentioned that the Recology company says the city is entitled to rate increases and rate changes each year. I thought the word entitled, like they're doing us a favor by increasing our rates. It isn't a big increase, but when you add up, I've been here for 20 years, and the garbage rates have gone up every year for 20 years. I think it's wrong that we don't put things out to bid, and maybe Recology will still be our garbage company. I think they're great. But I have a question. I've been told that even if there's a public hearing and we oppose it, it doesn't matter on garbage because you already have a contract with them that is already preset for so many years. So I don't understand if this is like a show or what on the garbage, because please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been told by city staff that we already have a contract with Recology and that you already have a set rate you're going to pay for the next so many years. So I don't understand why we're having a public comment if it's already a done deal. And secondly, when you do vote on the garbage rate hike, I know the city does get a percentage off the top, and it seems like it almost looks like a little bit of a conflict of interest, because then maybe you'd be more likely to raise the rates. So I thought you might want to clarify that with the audience. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And James O'Neill.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is James O'Neill, and I'm the Vice President of the Peninsula Place Homeowners Association. I'm here representing the 872 homeowners of Peninsula Place. Not only do we oppose the proposed garbage rate increase, we're asking you to adjust our rate down to more accurately reflect our actual usage. We're currently billed at almost the same rate as 872 individual homes with 32-gallon garbage cans. But unlike individual homes that would have 872 garbage totes and 872 recycling totes and perhaps even 872 garden waste totes, we're dramatically more efficient. We have only 33 garbage dumpsters, 69 recycling totes, 2 recycling dumpsters, and no garden waste containers, because even after repeated attempts asking the garbage company to work with us to properly dispose of our garden waste, they refused. Another efficiency that Peninsula Place offers is the mailing of only one bill, not 872 separate mailings that would be required for separate homes. The argument can be made that we deserve to pay more since we have garbage and recycling pickup more than once a week. Unfortunately, that argument is also inflated. Many, many times each week, the garbage truck bypasses some of our dumpsters because they do not contain any garbage. Obviously, some inefficiencies have crept into the garbage and recycling collection system over the years. Our directors and management team are more than willing to work with the garbage company to be more efficient at Peninsula Place in exchange for a reduced rate. If the garbage company wants to make more money, let them become more efficient. That's good for all of us. Thank you.
All right, that's all the cards I have for garbage. We're going to move right into water, wastewater. And the first speaker would be Audrey Hall.
I don't normally do these kind of things. I mean, don't come out. But my questions are in regards to Prop 218. I don't know if we're in violation of that. According to Prop 218.13d, the city can raise its water rates without a ballot vote sent to each property owner. However, a ballot must be sent to each property owner if any assessment is imposed to finance costs of maintenance of water or sewer projects. So I just had a question about that. I'm questioning that because they're two separate things, the water rate and your rehabilitation or your construction for the future. I have questions about that. Also, I wanted to question about the San Bruno's Water Tank 3, also known as Glenview Tank. It's to my belief that that money came to rehabilitate that tank is from the first and original monies you received from PG&E. But that project is listed here as a future project. Has that money, in this budget that you have here, so you have it being paid twice, sort of? Because if it's being paid out of the PG&E's first $50 million sent to San Bruno to rehab the blasted area and all the costs to that area, and so I'm questioning that. I don't understand why it's listed here, but yet it's going to be paid out of PG&E's money. And also, is there a financial report that we can look at to see how these increases were calculated for our water and why, Our city also received that $70 million of settlement from PG&E, and if not for fixing our infrastructure and ensuring safety for all of San Bruno's citizens, then what's it for? I mean, what's it for then? And I also wanted to question why your letter of this proposed rate hike did not come in different languages, given the demographics of the city. Our annual water quality report comes with different languages. Why not this notice? We have a lot of. My neighbor is Mexican. He's Hispanic. He was wondering. I asked him, "Did you get it in Spanish?" He said no. And I have Tongan friends, Samoan friends, Filipino friends, Chinese. None of them got anything in bilingual. A lot of the homeowners are old here. Some of them don't speak our language, speak the English language. So I'm wondering about that. And citizens like myself can't afford such a huge rate hike in 5 years. And we have so many elderly in our community, and they're on fixed incomes, and the low income will undoubtedly suffer. For some, it may come to making hard choices. You buy food, you buy your medicines, you pay your rent or your mortgage, or you pay this huge utility bill. What do you do? What do you do for these people? Many small businesses I predict, will have to shut their doors. How can they pay your utility rate, their rent, and pass on their costs to their customers, who probably will have to stop coming because, we're all stuck in this thing here? The impact of your increase will be catastrophic for many. I strongly suggest we use part of that $70 million from PG&E to pay for some of the costs in your proposed increase to water, wastewater, and the repairs to the city. I have a more detailed letter to the city, and
you can give it to the city clerk.
Yeah.
Thank you, Audrey. Our next speaker is Vito Dellagrazzi. And excuse me, after Vito will be Mary Glenn, just so you know.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Vito Dellagrazia. I've been a resident in San Bruno for over 40 years, and my children grew up here, went to school here. San Bruno was a choice to move to because this was a beautiful city, and everything about the city really was enjoyable. But over the years, especially in the last 20 years, I've been watching, not saying anything, the silent majority deal that, you look and you observe, but rates have been getting higher and higher and higher. Now, we're all aware of that. And obviously, we're all aware that you have to maintain infrastructure, and there's a cost to that. We understand that. I'm pretty sure that there's not a person here that would argue against replacing certain things that are decaying and need to be replaced. But I also remember that San Bruno spent quite a bit of money at taxpayers' expense to redo a lot of their wells, because that was going to offset some of the costs from Hetch Hetchy. I didn't see any decrease in any costs when that took place. There was a situation there with San Bruno Garbage turned around and said, we're going to go into recycling because the money that we get on that will go back and it will offset some of our costs. I didn't see any reduction in any costs. They upgraded their equipment, upgraded the cans, so this way the truck can combine, pick them up, and flip them in. That's fine. Maybe that made them more efficient, but I didn't see any reduction in costs. And I look at things that, like being employed and having been self-employed in the past, I look at things and say, well, there's some sacrifices from my end that I have to make in order to meet my daily obligations. But I'm not hearing or seeing any sacrifices that are being made from the utilities in this city. And I think if they're doing some sacrifices, they're sure as heck not publishing it. If they're cutting wages, if they're cutting benefits, anything, it's not being broadcast. Nobody knows about it. So if there's going to be transparency here, then I think the board, I think the employees in the city, they need to start making things more known to our community so we see and hear and understand what's going on. And I think we all share in that responsibility, because if we really truly like our city, we have to like our neighbors and our people that are living here. We need to take care and watch out for one another. We need to start making things more transparent, because a lot of us are in the dark. We don't know what's going on. The little board meetings in the back room and stuff, we don't know what your deals are being cut. But if you have contracts and things that you're already obligated to, I think that should be clarified with the people here so they understand exactly what's going on. Otherwise, you're going to have people that are upset. All they see is everything going higher and higher and higher, and there's no real clear explanation except maybe throw a few things on the board. That's all I have to say. I just, I very rarely come out and do these things, but I think at this point in time, after so many years being in the city, I wanted to express my opinion of what I think I would like to see coming from the city council, coming from the city employees that are representing our community. Thank you.
All right, Mary Glenn, and then after Mary, it'll be, looks like Rena Ranahan. Mary Glenn? Mary here? All right. Looks like Rena. I hope I pronounced it right. Ranahan. And then it'll be Russell Steins.
My name is Rena Ranahan. I live on Park Avenue. I would like to read you the Proposition 218. In November 1996, California voters passed Proposition 218, the Right to Vote on Taxes Act. The constitutional amendment protects taxpayers by limiting the methods by which local governments can create or increase taxes, fees, and charges without taxpayer consent. Proposition 218 requires an approval prior to imposition of increase of general taxes, assessments, and certain user fees. We are not resolving this problem democratically. You are automatically ordering a rate increase without allowing the citizens of San Bruno to put a vote on a ballot. This should be done. We should not have to have an automatic increase and be told that over 50% of us have to object to your rate increase. This is demagoguery, and it should change. There is a rising objection to your methods of forcing a rate increase on this city. There is no reason why we have to follow this master plan. We can make changes. And many of the changes should be approved directly by the citizens of our city. Many of them are unemployed, on fixed income. It's an unfair demand on their resources. I also think the way that you calculate the use of your water is unfair. I called the water department once to question my water bill, and I live alone, and I was told that the usage is averaged in on the neighbor's use next to me and across the street. So I think I'm being overcharged on my water usage. I've just learned that I have to replace my sewer, which is going to become a cost of over $8,000 to me. So having to pay the extra increase is an unfair demand on my budget and everyone else's budget in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Russell Steins, then Barbara Larea.
Okay, well, I pretty much said most of everything I wanted to say, other than just a little thought for you guys. Electrical Concepts is the only company in San Bruno that can do all the electrical work for you. And I'm going to increase my charges every year for the next 10 years. All your homes have knob and tube in them, so they all need to be replaced because the wiring is outdated. Now, this is really the case in most of the homes here, but what I'm trying to make a point here is that if we're getting somebody that keeps increasing and increasing on us and increasing on us, isn't there a way that we can put and ask for somebody else to give us a competitive price to deliver our water, to deliver our garbage? Because I know when I walk into a job and I say, hey, I'm from San Bruno, somebody doesn't say, okay, well, you have the job. And that's just the way the world works here. So I think we need to look into perhaps putting these people accountable for what they're saying here. And also, when you have a pipe that's 60 years old, is that pipe bad? I don't know. You have wiring in your house that's 60 years old. Is it still running? Yes. Should it be replaced? Maybe. Will it last another 100 years? Maybe. And I'm not saying the pipes that are 100 years old shouldn't be replaced, okay? Maybe there's some out there. But does anybody up there actually know that if a pipe is 60 years old, it's bad? Do we know the life expectancy of that pipe? Has there been anybody that's done any kind of research into how long that pipe is supposed to last? And somebody's telling you, hey, you need new pipes. Hey, I'm telling you, you need new wiring in your house. So, you see where I'm coming from here? So I hope you guys actually look into this because, you know, I would never come out to something like this, but I have to tell you, I've been sitting back for a long time watching this, and I'm tired of it. And something has to change, and I don't know what that's going to be, but if things don't change, I'm definitely going and voting. So, thank you.
All right. Barbara Larea, then Walter Bird.
Yes, Mayor. In the 20 years I've lived in San Bruno, rates have risen each year with the justification by the city that infrastructure needs repairing or replacing. Yet we recently got fined $750,000 by the state because we have never brought our infrastructure up to code, which resulted, as the mayor said, in 148 sewer sanitary overflows from 2004 to 2009. The lawsuit against the city cited that lack of infrastructure repair and upgrade, plus numerous contractor errors, was the problem. We have been mandated by the state and regional water boards to fix these sewer issues, which are a threat to people's health. 3 members of this city council have been on the council since the mid-1990s. What has the city been doing with, for example, the $21.2 million per year we get from water and sewer utility bill payments. I know that, and I have to give you credit, as I did in my article, there are some wonderful things that have been done, and I see getting more proactive, but we need to increase our wells because we won't have to depend so much on Hetch Hetchy. And I like the idea of the pump stations and changing the routes of the pipes. Over the last 3 years, our water rates were raised about 12% and our sewer 10%. That was 3 years ago. Now you want to impose this on us. It's too much money for the people of San Bruno. This new rate increase is compounded over a 5-year period. It's too much money. People can't afford it. It's inexcusable, it's unacceptable, it's unaffordable, and it's astronomical. We, the citizens, demand a zero tolerance of any rate hikes at all, especially knowing that the city has been deemed negligent in its infrastructure upkeep, and that the private developers of the former Navy base were given free multiple millions of dollars worth of infrastructure so they could build those apartments and condos. The San Bruno residents aren't going to tolerate this anymore. On Friday, I received a call from a wonderful senior citizen who has lived in San Bruno for 36 years. She told me that the idea of this rate increase has affected her health because she simply does not have the money to pay these rates, and that's the case with several of her friends. And she said if the city council votes yes on this rate hike, and these are the chilling words she used, she will be forced to evacuate San Bruno, as will some of her friends. I had trouble sleeping that night after hearing this. I'm wondering if the council would want this on their conscience if they voted to raise this rate. San Bruno was named the city with a heart. Let's see if the 5 council members continue in that tradition by voting no to any rate hike. Thank you.
Walter Bird and then Jerry Guernsey.
My name's Walter Bird. I live on Crestmore Drive. I have one simple question. According to the statistics we were given earlier, the rate increase is going to be approximately 50%. And this takes into consideration the fact that this city, from what I'm told, it takes about 50% of their water from the wells. Am I to believe that, were we not using the well water, that this increase would be 100%? Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Guernsey, and then John Barrelier.
Jerry Guernsey, I used to live on Concord Way. We got blown up. And the first question is, you got $70 million at one time to do the infrastructure of Crestmore 2. Now it's $50 million. And I'm wanting to know if that includes all of our water and sewer lines. That's the first question. Second question, I've lived in San Bruno 43 years. My water rates, sewer rates used to be modest. Now I pay for the privilege of having a water line and the privilege of having a sewer line. And it costs me more to flush my toilet than it does to have a glass of water. So the rates should not go up. So that's it.
John and then Elaine Matthias.
John Barrelier, North San Anselmo. The reason I'm here tonight is because of an editorial I saw in the paper, and I want written here is correct. It's written by John J. Dillon, San Bruno resident. San Bruno is going to raise water, sewage, and garbage rates by 22.4% per year for 5 years, in the worst economy in generations. This is someone's idea of a really bad joke, right? I wonder how the residents out there feel about an average utility bill of more than $200 becoming near $500 a month in a few short years. How about seniors and those on fixed incomes, business owners, and new families struggling to get by? Are you going to lie down and accept this? Have you examined other ways of saving money, such as cutting staff? Do you realize that the 22% increase per year will result in the loss of houses by homeowners? when it gets to be $500 a month water bill. And the loss of housing by renters who may not be able to keep their apartments when the increase is passed on to them. If the editorial is correct, are you ready to deal with more foreclosed houses and blighted areas and a profound increase in homelessness and crime? If the rate is approved, it will have a devastating effect on seniors, on fixed incomes in particular. This is a senior center. They are hosting you tonight. I'd like to remind you of that. Thank you.
Elaine, and then Henry Schaff.
Yes. Well, math is not my strong suit, but I don't understand how you have a rate increase of almost 10%, 10%, and 2%, and you come out with an average of 8%. It's really strange math on this handout that you handed out tonight. I've lived in San Bruno since 1974, and like everyone else has said, we all expect that things are going to gradually increase, but this just seems ridiculous. And it seems like really poor planning. I can't believe that from the time the structures weren't built, someone didn't have a master plan going immediately. You know things are going to fall apart and that they're going to need to be redone. And you don't wait until everything is falling apart. It's like a homeowner waiting until their roof has caved in from all the rain that's come on it for the last 10 years because they haven't repaired it. It's just really ridiculous to me that we're in the place that we're in, if it is this drastic. Also, with regard to the garbage rates, I'm curious about why there isn't an offering of a can between the 32 and the 64-gallon size, because I have a 64-gallon. Not as many kids at home now would downsize, but 32 is too small, and there's nothing in between. And, you know, it's twice as much for the big can as it is for the small can. It seems like there should be something that could be offered that would make it a little better. And we've been doing recycling, and it hasn't helped us any. I thought that, you know, now we're doing more work, separating our garbage, doing all the stuff that's supposed to save money, so not as much is going into the landfill, and still the rates keep going up. So I feel like as consumers, we're always getting less and paying more for what we're getting.
Thank you. Henry Schaff, then Terrell Champion.
Yeah, I just want to repeat again about a bond measure. I think probably the people will feel better about a bond than having these rates go up continuously. And I wonder why staff, whoever came up with these figures and everything, didn't try to come out with a bond measure and try to sell a bond measure. These water rates are astronomical. And these people on staff, they make a lot of money, some of them, and they can afford these rates. I can't. I really can't afford it. And I've been here, and I've seen you gentlemen many, many times over the years. I can't afford these rates. A small rate increase, yes. And please, think of that $70 million. You have made some bad decisions of spending money in the past. City money, taxpayers' money. Very bad decisions. But please, make a good decision on that $70 million. Maybe that can help pay for these structure for the pipes and everything else. I hope you do. Some of it anyways. Okay? Thank you.
All right, Terrell Champion, then Mike, looks like Bronny.
Thank you very much. I, too, have never done anything like this before, but thank you for listening to me. I was very struck when I saw the flyer that said the rate was going to be increased. Coincidentally, I just got a COLA on my retirement. I just recently retired and got my first COLA. Guess what it was? 2.5. I was thrilled until I got the letter from San Bruno telling me that my 2.5 is pretty much going to go to my utility bill. Currently, I pay more for my utility than I do PG&E. We do everything in our household to cut down as much as we possibly can. We wash our clothes in the evening. Sometimes we don't flush. We do everything. We try to conserve. And this kind of increase is going to be so painful to so many people in our community because we do have an aging community. A friend of mine was going to come with me tonight. She is also a retired nurse like myself. And she can barely make ends meet. And it's going to be very painful for her, as it will for a lot of other people. These rates are outrageous. She just moved to San Bruno from San Mateo, and as you saw on the chart, San Mateo, our county seat, is cheaper than we are. And, we aren't Silicon Valley here, so I don't know why we're having to pay for this. And I'd also like to comment on what the lady before me said, and that was my question. As I'm listening tonight, I'm amazed that these fear tactics are being used. Not that I don't believe that our pipes are aging, but what I do believe, what I question is, wasn't somebody all along managing this? Wasn't somebody putting money aside for repairs and aging and updates? Wasn't somebody doing that? I was a manager for 20 years for the county of San Mateo as a nurse, and it was part of my responsibility to make sure that I accounted for my equipment when I had to do with my budget. I knew exactly what equipment I was going to have to replace. That was part of my responsibility. So I'm saying, I'm sure 40, 60 years ago there was council meetings just like right now, and you were saying to the people that, oh, we have all these things we have to pay for, so therefore, we get our monies from you, so you're going to have to pay us more money. Well, what happened to that money all these last 60 to 100 years? Why wasn't things ongoing? Why now is it all of a sudden we have to fix everything all at once? And is this what we're to expect in the future? Is that how you're going to manage in the future? You're just going to go in there and Band-Aid everything, and then 15 more years down we're going to hear another meeting with the same things? I think somebody needs to be accountable for this. Why are we getting hit for this all at once? People are suffering. People don't have money. And people will be forced to move out of their homes and leave. Good people, people you want in your community. These people are coming up here tonight, as I am myself, who are good citizens. And if you keep raising our utilities this high, we will be forced to move and go and live in a city that cares about its residents, that does not nickel and dime them to force them to leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there Mike Brainy or Brawny? Mike? Hope I pronounced that correctly.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Mike Brainy, Elm Avenue. I have a master plan, and it's to survive, month to month, year to year. I think the people here represent pretty good consensus of the city and how they feel about this. I think the elected officials here need to consider that when it comes election time. This is quite a big ask that they're doing here. Excuse me. 10% a year, I thought, is what the young lady was saying. I wish my investments and savings were doing that well, but they're not. So, just in conclusion, I think we, better listen to what people are saying here. Keep that in mind.
Thank you. All right, I've gone through all the speaker cards. I just want to ask one more time, has everybody had a chance to speak? So if I close the public hearing, you're precluded from speaking to us again on this issue. We go right to council for talk and decision. Yes, please. I'll work on that. Go ahead. Yeah, since you're the only one, last one.
All right. City Council.
And you are?
I'm Marty Medina.
Okay, Marty.
I'm a resident in San Bruno on Garden Avenue. I also work in the Public Services Department. I, too, have concerns about my water bill, my sewer bill, the garbage bill, and I think tonight I'm proud of my city, of my citizens today, of taking the time and effort and courage to speak out. A 5-year plan to increase the sewer and water is way too aggressive. We have an opportunity now. We have the public here wanting something heard, and we should re-examine maybe a 1-year hike of something, and then this is an opportunity to re-examine how we do infrastructure improvements in San Bruno. We can get better. I know we can get better. We have a lot of hardworking guys and women in this city that if we put our minds to it with the public support, we can do better. So please hear what we're saying today, and a lot of people are counting on you tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we have one last speaker. It looks like Sean Conley. Sean?
Yes, I am concerned about the bills, but also, other than the questions asked, I'm wondering how regular citizens can help control the cost to help it stay lower. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll say it one more time just to make sure you heard it. When I close the public hearing, you're precluded from speaking on this as the public. So do you have any action from the council? Yes? We have another?
I'm sorry, I didn't fill out when I came in late.
All right. This is the last speaker. Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Just real quick. Do I need to fill it?
Please. No, just speak.
Yeah. Hi. My name is Mike Watkins, and small business owner and resident of San Bruno. Real quick, listen to everybody with all their concerns. And my question is, and I'm late here, so I apologize for that, so I might have missed this. But I'm down on Huntington Avenue, and I'm going through the second coming of Huntington Avenue since Bart went through there. And my question to you people is, did we ask BART and or Caltrain for resources on our utility bills, and not bills, but helping out with utilities and our infrastructure? And that's my question to you guys, because I see a lot of work going on there and a lot of money being spent. I'm just curious if those guys, or if we've asked for the Caltrain or BART's help. That's my question. That's all
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Action regarding the public?
Second.
Motion second to close the public hearing on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Council discussion and action. Before we do that, let's turn it to staff. We have a number of questions that were posed to us, and we'll try to get through them. If they're very specific, we'll probably have to get back to you, but I think in general we'll be able to answer most of them this evening. So first of all, I would like to ask the city attorney, maybe you're the one, regarding Prop 218. There was talks about that we had to send ballots out, and maybe you could kind of explain I don't know if there's rationale from the state behind it, but maybe you can explain it.
Well, it's hard to say why the state does some things. With Prop 218, they set up a statutory scheme to get protests for these kinds of actions, and the city's followed it, at least as far as we can, to the best of our abilities and to the letter of the law. There are often things that aren't clear in state laws, as we've discovered recently, and that's certainly true with Prop 218. There have been a lot of cases filed by both taxpayers and by cities on Prop 218 about what does it really mean. But we've gotten the best advice we can regarding how to do the process, and we did follow the process. We have a consultant here who I'm sure would be happy to explain in even more detail how we did that. But to answer, I think, a couple of the questions that came up, we did follow state law, and state law does require that the protests be in the form that we said they had to be in, and it does require that there be more than 50% and that they be signed by the property owners. So those are all things that we complied with. We didn't write the law. We just have to follow it.
All right, thank you. And staff, maybe we could start with garbage, or whatever you want to do.
So I'm going to
What's
take
easier?
a stab at these questions,
Okay,
and I'll apologize in advance if we jump around a little bit, and if we don't get everything that several of us have taken notes. So we're going to try and make sure that we've got everything that the residents spoke to.
Okay, can everyone hear the city manager?
Oh, sorry. Okay. If we miss something, please let us know. So first of all, the representatives from Peninsula Place asked about garbage service charges, the opportunity or the potential of their ability to go out for competitive bid, and in addition, questioned their ability to work with Recology to achieve service-related resolution of service-related issues. This is an issue that exceeds the scope of the discussion in front of the City Council tonight, but is one that the City Council may, at a later occasion, wish to take up, having to do with the structure of our franchise agreement with Recology. And that agreement is currently in place for approximately, I'm not remembering, but probably another 10 years or so. Within the existing structure of that franchise, however, is the opportunity for Peninsula Place or any other multifamily dwelling unit, representatives of any other service recipient, to discuss and resolve service-related issues. The City Council has the ability, with the cooperation of Recology, to address structural changes to the rate. We would need, obviously, to spend a little bit more time evaluating some of the issues that have been raised by Peninsula Place and that may affect others in order to accomplish that. Again, with the structure of the contract in place, there are certain parameters within which we can consider some of the service-related and rate issues, but do not have the ability at this time to authorize any individual complex to go out separately for bid. Would you like me to stop?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I have down in my notes that one of the statements that the gentleman made was that each individual person or each individual unit at Peninsula Place paid the same as a 32-gallon single resident, and I didn't realize that I didn't think that was the case. I had been told before that it was much less than that. So I wanted to know the accuracy of his statement.
Yeah, what I would like to suggest is that you direct staff in Recology to work with the representatives of Peninsula Place. It is my understanding, with this issue coming to my attention within the last few days, that is actually the case, and that the structure of the rate that is currently charged to Peninsula Place is comparable to that which is in effect for other multifamily dwelling units throughout the city. Is that correct? $1 less, I'm sorry, is what the finance director tells me. So I think that this is an issue that we would like to spend a little bit more time with Peninsula Place and with Recology about.
Okay, thank you.
There were questions raised about or rather a suggestion was raised about bonding for the costs of utility services. While I believe that it is possible for the city to issue debt, and bonding is debt, for the cost of infrastructure improvements, in order to do so, there would need to be a revenue stream that secures the debt. Otherwise, it would not be possible for us to do that. That revenue stream, in the situation of a rate-funded enterprise, which is the situation with our water and wastewater utilities, would need again to be rates. We have discussed previously with the City Council the possibility of issuing debt to level out the revenue stream and the cost of the improvements over a period of time, and that remains one feature of the rate program that we would expect to implement in future years, probably within the 5-year time horizon. It was suggested that rate money could be used for anything. That is, in fact, not correct. That, as the City Council is well aware, enterprise rates can only be used by law for enterprise purposes. In other words, they cannot be used in the general fund or any other place. There were questions raised about the Prop 218 notice. I believe the city attorney has addressed those. Tank 3 at Glenview, or the Glenview tank, that is, and actually there were a couple of questions related to the infrastructure repairs in the Crestmore 2 neighborhood that are the result of the explosion and fire in September of 2010. Tank 3 is not currently on the list of the improvements that will be funded via the PG&E Trust, and that is certainly something that we can go back and look at, whether there is an adequate nexus to the Tank 3 service area that would allow us to consider use of the PG&E funds for that purpose. There's no, but these improvements are not being paid for twice. That project is not currently included. There was a question raised about what sacrifices have been made in reducing costs, specifically for employee salary and benefits by utility employees. Perhaps we have not done as much of as good a job as the resident might have requested, that to disseminate the information about the salary reductions and the benefit cost pickups that both our utility and our general fund employees across the board in our city have taken over the last 5 years. It was mentioned earlier that there have been no across-the-board salary increases granted in our city since 2007. And in fact, our salaries have been reduced and benefit costs have been increased. The amount of benefit costs have been increased. That employees pick up has been increased. We are currently experiencing the equivalent of 8 days of furlough, and that equates to a roughly 5% reduction in salaries, again, across the board, including our enterprise-funded employees. Just because a pipe is 60 years old, why does it need to be replaced? In fact, that's what the master plans are all about. There is nothing is being replaced or rehabilitated unless it needs it. And in fact, the improvements that are contemplated will occur not over a 5-year period, and they're not being funded over a 5-year period, but over a longer time horizon. As we mentioned earlier, over 20 years in the water enterprise and 25 years in the wastewater enterprise. There was a suggestion that the city had provided millions of dollars in free infrastructure to the development of at the crossing. I am not aware. We have researched this and find no information that suggests that was actually the case. If there's more information that the public has about that, we would be interested in understanding that concern a little bit better. Again, there was no redevelopment or general fund monies were directly used to subsidize the development of the housing units at the crossing, other than the subsidy that is being provided on an annual basis for the affordable units, which represent 20% of the units at that development. Those are our former redevelopment agency pledged housing set-aside funds that were specifically intended and strictly designated only for affordable housing, and those are the funds that are being used for that purpose. Once again, it is incorrect that the rate increase equates to a total of 22% compounded annually, or that a current $200 bill would rise to $500 over the 5-year period. We explained that previously. And similarly, the question about the math that leads a 9.8% increase on the water side and 10.3% increase on the wastewater side to a roughly 8% average amount. And I'll see if I can explain that simply, and that is that as the City Council is aware, and as our notice provided a detailed description of, the rate itself on both the water and the wastewater side is comprised of a fixed charge that is related to the meter capacity and a variable charge which is related to the consumption. It goes up based on it's charged on a per unit amount of water consumed, and so if my household consumes more water than your household, I would pay more than you would. So the calculations that we do for comparative purposes are based on the average household, which consumes 8 units of water per month. And using that calculation with the fixed component and the variable component, the rate increase averages out to 8%, and that was described on the handout we provided. Any example we would provide you or that anybody could devise would be nothing more than an example, because the rate is calculated based precisely on the amount of service that is delivered to individual properties. So when we talk about the rate increase amount, again, it's only applied to the variable component of the water consumption, and it is so when you put all of the pieces of the way the rate is charged together, you end up with a potentially different amount. In this case, our calculation showed roughly 8%. And again, as I mentioned earlier, still a significant increase. There's no real argument about that. There were comments about it being imprudent to wait until the roof is falling down, or by corollary until the infrastructure has actually failed before it's repaired. And in fact, that's what this rate program is all about. It is about getting ahead and staying ahead of the deterioration of the infrastructure and maintaining it in serviceable condition before it fails. Did we ask BART and Caltrain to help pay for infrastructure? The answer to that is actually yes and no. And I'll start with the no. BART and Caltrain, like we, rely on taxpayer and ratepayer revenues, and they have a mandate, just like we do, to utilize their revenues strictly for the services that they provide, which does not include rehabilitation of our water and wastewater infrastructure. However, to the extent that the work being done interrupts or creates an impact to the services that we provide and the infrastructure that is in the way, the answer is absolutely yes. There is a requirement that is routinely applied by the City Council that those changes or repairs need to be made by the person who's interrupting the service. In the case of the Caltrain grade separation project, there was a portion of a line relocation that also involved an upsizing of one of our sewer pipelines that is actually being done by Caltrain and is part of their project in association with another part of the project that we will do. So that was the result of a fairly long and extended discussion with Caltrain, and I think has proved to be to the benefit of both the City of San Bruno and its ratepayers. That concludes the notes that I have, so let me just consult for a minute with Kim and make sure that we've covered everything that we noted.
Based on a winter average. So there's a 4-month time period in the winter where it's assumed that a resident is using less water because you're not irrigating your yard as often. So that 4-month winter average is used to calculate what the sewer charge will be for the remainder of the year. So in the discussion of the average, I believe that may be where some of the confusion might have resulted from. So that is how, in fact, the water and sewer charges are calculated. Another comment was in regards to what has the city been doing with the $21 million it receives annually. I believe the $21 million amounts to approximately what we receive in the water and sewer funds each year from the utility rates. Those amounts fund the necessary operation and capital improvements in the system, and any amount that is received in a given year that is not spent on operating or capital costs are absorbed into that fund balance for that respective fund. So water rates remain in the water fund. They don't go anywhere outside that fund. And similarly with sewer, those rates stay in the fund. And in fact, the fund balance that exists in both of those funds, primarily in the water fund, is helping to fund the program as we move forward, and is part of the reason why the rate increase, this proposed rate increase for the next 5 years, is less than what it was the last time around. So those funds remain in the fund and do continue to fund those investments. Another comment related to the garbage service was simply why not offer an additional garbage can between a 32 and 64 gallon toter. The garbage can sizes that we have in place, I believe, are consistent with those that are in other agencies. I'm not aware of any other agency in the area that offers a can in between a 32 to 64 gallon. We could obviously work with Recology to see if that's a possibility and possibly factor that into a future rate proposal if there was interest from the community. But at this point in time, I'm not aware of any other communities that have a can in that range.
Just 2 more comments. Does the use of well water help decrease costs, and would the increase be more if we were not able to utilize well water? And the answer to both of those questions is yes. As we indicated, between now and 2018, the PUC's water cost will almost double, and that it represents a more significant cost increase for that portion of our water use. So I think it's fair to say that the use of well water does have a beneficial effect on the city's overall cost and rate structure. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it provides flexibility and redundancy that many of our fellow communities up and down the peninsula do not have. Why wasn't the master plan approved sooner? And again, might we have been in a better situation with respect to infrastructure needs had we done that? The master planning process is by itself a very detailed, very time-consuming and lengthy process, and it is typically done approximately every 10 years in order to make full use of the investment in the planning process itself, and to provide a reasonably long-term and at the same time reasonably fresh look at the needs. So we are essentially on schedule in producing the updated master plans and putting that new information to work for system improvements. So that, one more. This is an easy one. Is there a financial report as to how the costs were calculated? The answer to that is yes. That can be made available, as is all information that we generate through the city. We are happy to make that report available to anybody who requests it. It is very detailed and includes a number of tables that may require a little bit of time to decipher and interpret, but certainly that information is available.
Quick question on the wells. The comment was made that, why can't we be self-sustaining? Why don't we just dig into the ground and put in some more wells? And maybe you could just comment on the difficulty of doing that or the prohibition of doing that.
Certainly. The siting and assuring a water supply through a new well is by itself a costly and sometimes difficult endeavor. We are currently in the process and have been for approximately a year of needing to site a new well to replace one of our wells that has been out of service and had previously experienced frequent repair requirements. There is an extended permitting requirement, and there is a limit, the way the water table is configured in San Bruno, there is a limit to, there are limitations on the locations where wells can be sited, and there are capacity limitations related to the taking of groundwater. Is that accurate? So there is, in my opinion anyway, we have utilized a prudent and beneficial strategy in maintaining a roughly 50% production in our water system, and we have reliably maintained that over a number of years, with obviously some variation up and down in the amount that's been produced. And as I indicated, we are currently in the process of locating and seeking to site a new well, and should be coming forward with that within the next several months. Now, again, that said, we do not do that independently, and it is not without cost. Drilling and maintaining a well is not, I don't mean to suggest that that's a cheap proposition. It, again, allows us to maintain redundancy, flexibility, and cost containment in the operation of our overall system. I think that I will stop.
Well, if I could, while you're talking about wells and San Francisco Water Department, do we have a dollar amount? I mean, I know someone in the audience asked if we're 50-50 on San Francisco and water wells. If we didn't have the wells, would we be 100% more? Well, I don't think we'd be 100% more, but do we have a rough figure, a rough estimate, as if we didn't have San Bruno water well, what would the PUC be charging us right now? What would San Francisco Water Department be charging us based on what we know of what we're paying right now, wholesale water? Is there a guess? I mean, is there...
You asked this question was forwarded to staff earlier today, and it's my understanding that we need to research that a bit in order to provide a more concrete answer. And I'm sorry, it sounds like it should be a simple question, and apparently it's not. So it is our intent to provide that information to you as soon as we're able to research that a bit further.
Can you go out on a limb and say that it would be more
per unit of water? Yes, I would say that.
I mean, would it be 10% more? Would it be?
We don't know. I'm sorry.
considerably.
I'm just trying to give the regular
Yeah.
user an idea of what the advantages we are in having water wells that actually don't pay for themselves.
Let me see if our expert has the ability to answer that question. You need to do it at the podium.
I don't want to have an answer yet. But I think I could come up with one pretty quickly. There are kind of two components to this. One is if you had to buy all your water from San Francisco Public Utility Commission, you'd have to buy all of the imported water rates, which are getting higher and higher. On the other side of the coin, if you pumped all your water from the wells, you'd have additional costs for wells, electricity, capital costs. So I don't know what the differential is between the two, but I can pretty quickly calculate what your wholesale water costs would be if you had to buy all your water from San Francisco. If you just give me a minute, I'll come back up and give you an answer to that question.
Okay. Any other questions of staff while we're waiting? Irene? Comments?
I have lots of comments. I have lots of comments, and I'd like to wait on them.
Okay.
While we're waiting, just a little food for thought. I realize there's a nice graphic here. San Francisco Water Department wholesale water rates, and in 2002 we were paying 88 cents per. We were paying less than $1 per. What's the unit measure?
100 cubic feet.
100 cubic feet. 88 cents, less than $1. Wow. Okay. Well, just for comparison's sake, and in 2011, 2012, we are now paying almost $3. So it is tripled. And San Francisco has predicted that we are going to be paying in 2020 almost $5. Okay. So that alone is a fixed cost for us, for that 50% or so that we are purchasing. And that has nothing to do with capital improvements in our system. That's just the cost of their water.
I'm trying to juggle a few things here, but to give you a sense, if you had to purchase all of your water supply, last year it looked like you purchased about 776,000 100 cubic feet of water. If you had to purchase it all from San Francisco at the current rate of $2.63, you'd be looking at a little over $2 million for imported water, which would be $4 million a few years down the line when the SFPUC rates double. I don't know what the offset would be on the
That's over and above what we paid. That's in addition to what we paid.
Well, that would be if you purchased all your
right,
water
exactly.
from there.
Right.
I can pretty much guarantee you your own water production is a lot less expensive than having to purchase the water from San Francisco, which is paying for a $4.3 billion upgrade to their Hetch Hetchy water system. So the city's, the other thing I'll just mention, the city's done a good job in recent years. Your imported water has come down as water use has declined, and I think that's one of the goals of this capital program as well, is to keep that trend going, where you're relying more on the local water, the cheaper water, than having to purchase from more expensive water from San Francisco. So you've been moving in the right direction, and the plan is to keep moving that way.
Okay. And just a general comment, if I may, not so much regarding rates, but there was a comment made by an individual earlier tonight about backdoor deals and salaries and things. We make a whopping $486 a month here, have for many, many, many years, have never increased our salaries at all. And as far as deals, it's all in the open. If you have the time to watch the council, or if you have the time to get an agenda, every single thing we talked about tonight has been talked about. Every single thing to the penny. So if you want to spend the time to do it, there's nothing backdoor. It's an open, public process. So if you have the time to do it or you want to follow it, that's great. If not, then I guess you elect us to do some of those things for you. So I just want to bring that out because it's a little sensitive when we work very, very hard, and more so in the last 20 months, as you probably know. But we work very, very hard to have that process open and public, and so I just wanted to reiterate that. So comments from council members or questions from staff? Start with Irene.
All right, I'll start. I don't have any questions from staff. I just wish that the people who left, who asked the questions, had stayed to listen to them. It's very discouraging to us up here. As the mayor said, we earn 480? Yeah, by the time they take our taxes out, it doesn't come to that much. But we have never taken a raise. I've been on this council since 1995, and we've never taken a raise. So that's that. I hope everyone was listening to the city manager when she was saying that our workers haven't had a raise and, in fact, have taken a 5% decrease in salary over the last few years. So
All right, we're on cable TV, so we won't entertain comments from the audience. Thank you. Thank you.
We can all have different opinions about things, and if people don't believe what I say, I'll be happy to talk to them and show them my pay stub if they want. But anyway, I want to tell a little story, and I want to mostly address the lady who was concerned about why we only recently had a master plan. This city was founded in 1914. We'll be celebrating our 100th year pretty soon, so that's kind of exciting. But with that came, so in 1914, the city was laid out. It was, of course, much smaller than it is now. And subsequently, we've added different housing units and housing developments, and we've added on and on. My family originally came here in 1937. In that time, my grandfather built his house on 2nd Avenue. And if you are familiar with the topography and the geography of San Bruno, you know that the 2nd Avenue on the east side of the railroad tracks it's landfill and it's pretty flat. And throughout the years when he lived there, it would flood every single winter. It didn't matter how much or how little rain there was, it flooded because of an inadequate storm drain system. Over the years, my grandfather would come to the city hall and talk about it and complain and talk about the dangers, because in those days the water heaters were on the floor, if you remember, way back then, and they had open pilot lights. And when the place flooded, the pilot lights would go out and the places would fill with gas often, and it was very dangerous. Also, when it flooded, there were sewer overflows, so the kids would be walking to school in sewage. Do you get that? In raw sewage. Okay, so that's the picture in 1937, 38, all the way until my father came and married my mother and started to raise a family, and he always used to tease that he moved her from 2nd Avenue to 5th Avenue, which is even a little bit further east, and it's a little flatter than where my grandparents were, and they suffered. Well, my father was a very smart man, and he learned from my grandparents, and he had, before he built his house, and he physically built his house, he had people who were taking off the top of Crestmore, off the hill, to build Crestmore. He had those people divert the dirt, some of it, to make his house be on an incline, so he's on a hill. So now we're in 1955. He's got his house built, and things are still flooding, and the raw sewage is still out there. And my father, being the very determined man that he was, would come to city council meetings and demand that something be done. Now, mind you, there's no master plan. There's no money put aside, but there was very little, very reasonable water and sewer rates, because they just paid for the immediate stuff. They didn't put any money aside because those people wanted to be reelected, because it's not popular, as you can all tell, to increase water rates. Okay. So in the 60s, my father organized a bond issue, who wanted to do a bond issue. And with all bond issues, they have to go to the vote of the people. He did that. He campaigned. He got a lot of support, except the people voted it down. They didn't care if the people in the lower area of San Bruno flooded, because they lived up here. So that got voted down. Well, my father, being the very determined man he was, went to the well, actually what he did was kind of sneaky. He gave out the personal home phone numbers of all the city council people and had people, the next time their houses flooded, call them. Well, houses flood at 2 in the morning, so he called them. All those people called the city council people at 2 in the morning. Anyway, after that, he did get some action. He got some things done, but still no master plan, still what reasonable water rates, still flooding, and still raw sewage out on the streets. Okay. Come 1995, I ran for city council. I got elected, as did Mr. Ruane, and then Mr. Ibarra joined us a few months afterwards. We decided that that was not the way we wanted our city to go, and we got and instituted a master plan. That was the first time from 1914 to 1998 it took us to get a master plan. Okay? That's the first time that the rates were raised to do capital improvements. It took us that long, people, 84 years. 84 years of neglect. We're trying to catch up, okay? We don't like it. We pay the same rates you all are paying. It's not fun. My mother's on a fixed income. She still lives on Fifth Avenue. She's 84 years old. She's going to have the same kind of increase as everyone else is. She's not protesting because she knows what it's like when we don't fix the system. There's raw sewage, and kids walk through it. Okay? So that's my story. I'm sorry we have to do it. I have to go and write my check out to the utilities. We don't get any kind of cut. We have to pay it. I know somebody's out there rolling his eyes like, what? I don't understand why you think we are, I don't know what, not being transparent, not being concerned. Of course we are. We live here. We've lived here. I think I've lived here the most of anybody. I'll be 60 this summer. I've lived here the whole time. So, I don't know. If you have personal questions, if you don't believe what I said, I'll be here. You could get my phone number, call me. I'll meet you for coffee, whatever.
Did you hear anything anybody said tonight?
I heard all of it.
Hey, listen,
Okay,
we have a
that's
process
my
here.
statement.
All right. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have one more thing.
Yes.
Thank you for my very long story. I usually don't talk this much. If you are on a fixed income, if this is going to hurt you, we are the only city in San Mateo County that if you need relief and you qualify, you can get a 25% reduction. That we can't help you more than that, I don't think. So that's my last statement.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions or comments for staff that haven't been addressed? Michael?
Sure, I have some comments. Council Member O'Connell and I are on the subcommittee that first reviewed this plan, and so we probably bear the most culpability up here in letting this get to this point. So we did review the plan, and my first take when I always look at these things is I look at the technical aspects of what was being presented, and I spent a lot of time with staff reviewing what's been done, what's being proposed, and all of that made perfect sense. The infrastructure is crumbling. They identified the cost to repair it. Finance worked out the numbers. We brought a consultant in to look at our rates. I think everything that we brought back here in terms of how we fix those rates, what we pay today should be divvied up, made a lot of sense. And the way the proposed rates were spread out over multiple years, of course, made sense when you're looking at it. And when you look a lot at these individual rates, you look at percentages, you look at dollar increment changes per unit, these things all look pretty small. But when you look at them in aggregate and you look at an actual bill, when I looked at my actual bill, it takes on a different form of reality. And I did read through all the comments, everything that was submitted. We all got copies of that, and I did read through all of them. I've heard comments from everyone, and I realize that a lot of people are still hurting from the economy. I myself, over the past 4 years, took 2 pay cuts at my job. not city council. I still get my $400 here, but I know what it feels like to have to budget this stuff. We're a family of 4, and we have to budget a lot of different things, and these cuts are significant. And when I first looked at it, I looked at it and it was like, okay, ouch, that's going to hurt. That's several $100s more that we're going to have to pay over the next 5 years. But then I started really thinking about the comments that people were making, and I realized that, the last census, I think, said that in San Bruno we average about $70,000 in income per household. That's average. There's some people that are making a lot more, and I imagine there's a lot of people that are making a lot less. So, we've heard a lot of statistics, a lot of percentages, a lot of numbers. I looked up some statistics myself. The Social Security Administration on their website shows that the average American that's getting a Social Security check is making about $1,200 a month, which is pretty much nothing. I mean, nobody can live on that much, definitely not in California. I also saw that the cost of living adjustment over the last 10 years has averaged either 4% or less. So anyone who's on a fixed income could probably expect not to make more than 4% more every year. So if we're increasing, and again, utilities make up a small portion of that. Most financial planning websites recommend budget 10% for your utilities. If somebody's making the average Social Security income 10% utilities, I mean, we are already taking more of that just for water and sewer. Forget about electricity, forget about gas, forget about cable, anything else. So those numbers, they kind of stuck in my head. The Housing and Urban Development website says that 40% of evictions in the United States are due to having water cut off. So people can't afford water, they get their water cut off, and they lose their homes. It's a pretty significant number. I mean, people losing their homes, 40% of it because of water, and here we are proposing water increases. So on one side, I completely understand that you can only go to the well so many times. Excuse the pun there. But you can only go to the well so many times. And I think, I heard people mention put out a bond. Let's fund it through a bond rather than through rates. And there are some different mechanics you can use mechanisms that you can use to fund these things differently. But there always has to be an income stream. And if we did put a bond out there, you would all have to agree to pay that bond back with interest. And that would require, I believe, a 2/3 vote from the public. So everyone in San Bruno, 2/3 of you would have to approve that. And I don't think that would happen. And bottom line is that we have some hard requirements that we have to meet. We have consent decrees. We have legal agreements that we have to meet that we will reduce sanitary sewer overflows by, I forget what the year is, but the clock's ticking, and we have a limited amount of time in which we have to meet those. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. We know that the money is, we keep going back to the ratepayers for this, and the ratepayers are now saying, we don't have it. And we've had a city employee come out and say, we could probably squeeze a little harder, and that's very, very compelling. So Marty, really appreciate your comments on this. I mean, coming from a city employee and then hearing that, you think that there could be a better way, that definitely makes me feel a lot better about maybe, looking a little harder and maybe going back and trying to reevaluate this. I asked, regarding the low income discount, I think last time I asked for some more information because one of the adjustments that we agreed to would be that we would move the sewer portion of the fee to the county tax roll. And my understanding was that one of our mechanisms for funding the low income discount was by the fees associated with delinquencies, which we would no longer get if we were to move that to the county rolls. and we made a point of saying that ratepayers would not be burdened with paying that discount, that it would come from somewhere. If we lose that stream, where is that discount coming from? So maybe we can address that, and then I'll continue with my comments.
So just very quickly on that point, that issue was raised, and the discussion included consideration of the placement of the sewer fee on the property tax bill. You are correct. At this moment, we do not have a viable alternative mechanism other than to provide the low-income discount on the sewer side, other than the delinquent fees, which we would no longer receive, or at least based on what we currently understand, we would not. There isn't a mechanism by which we would receive those if the sewer bill was collected on the property tax. That it was not intended to begin immediately, and staff has clearly heard the council's priority, number one, for maintaining the low-income discount, and number two, for making sure that that is secured before we do anything that would change the method of collection.
Okay. So because that proposal to move that to the county's tax roll would be a year out, then we would have a year to figure out how to pay for it. Okay. The only other comment I would have is that based on what I've heard tonight, and based on what I've read from the public, I don't think that it would be fair. I don't think it would be representative of the people's wishes for us to pursue the increases that were proposed, and I would recommend that we look at some other alternatives that might perhaps be somewhat less painful in the short term. And I realize that that would impact the current plans, but I suspect that there are some infrastructure changes that could be either delayed or financed over a longer period of time. We are looking at using debt to fund some of this, and I'd really like to see us come back with something that's more palatable.
Okay. Rico?
That's why we let Councilmember Salazar go first. He gets all the data and the facts out. I also know that there are city employees that are in the audience tonight, and I think with a lot of their efforts, we have seen a reduction in the SSOs, and we have seen them make a great improvement on the current head count with not all the factors that plan to be ordered or are in the yard currently. Going to Marty Medina's comment, and yes, we share the last name. People do think we're cousins, but we are technically not related. So I know somebody looked at my nameplate here. I respect that, being a former city employee myself and a resident for my entire life thus far. I think when we have employees that come to this audience, step up to the mic, it's not easy, and I respect that. And I think us working together, as this community did over the last 20 months with the staff's help and support, we've made great strides. And we have gone through a lot. And I think we sit here tonight, one proud community. So I think we can, not to be a pun again, go back to the well, go back to the well and let's re-examine. I, like some others, and I hear us talking up here, I went back to my water bills back to 1999. Yeah, I still have them. I'll shred them soon. But and looking through 2003, just to kind of see the significance and where it went. I look back, and believe it or not, I keep too much paper probably, but here's the 2009 water rate study survey. One of my questions was, what have we accomplished since we raised the rates and they were given 4 different levels of opportunity in which to raise at this point, from levels 1 through 4. And the council then, I being one, endorsed level 3 because we thought level 4 was too much. I think it gave the opportunity for the community to have other options as well. Where did we want to see ourselves go? How bad was the situation? And what, if you want to say, the pain threshold could handle. Like Councilmember Salazar, at my job that I work, because obviously 486 doesn't pay the bills a month, I've reduced. I'm not making what I did either. So I understand that. And yes, I have colleagues, as far as work is concerned, family and friends who have lost their homes or have lost their jobs. So I'm very aware of the pain that people suffer and are suffering and are going to unfortunately probably continue. And I also know unemployment, probably the maximum is about $450 a week is what you get. That's it. And there's a lot of people that have been unemployed and may not be employed soon. I personally, wanting to know, I brought it up back in July 2011 when I asked about, I know I bring up about comparisons to other cities, because to me that's important. I know we had an answer to San Carlos, but I've also brought up Cal Water. Not to put down anybody who works for San Bruno Water, but I think when the question's asked, we have to have that answer. Why is San Carlos cheaper? Why is the city of San Mateo? Why is the city of South San Francisco? There are various reasons, but I think as we look to the shared services or outsourcing various options, we need to have everything considered so that the public has that answer very clear and that we all can understand. On the garbage rates, to me, that was more sewer water. On the garbage, can you please let me know what was the original request for the increase before we went to 2.34?
There are two proposals. The
Correct.
original proposal was the interim rate adjustment of 2.341, and the supplemental proposal that was provided, it was to initiate an organics program at a cost of about I think it was about a 9.3% increase.
Okay, thank you very much. So that was brought up before for a 9.3% increase. And back then, I also raised the question of concern about what can the community withstand. And that was before I knew the water and waste price. I'm blessed. There was two of us that went for it. Now the whole council says let's go with the 2.34 and put off the organic because of the tough times. And I'm sitting here still with the same concern with the water and wastewater. A 5-year plan for rate increases, some people can perceive that's like a blank check. There really is no reevaluation. There's really nothing going to come back to us for another 5 years. It's been 3 years, and don't think from 2009 to now, it hasn't been on my mind, the vote that I made to try to keep us out of bay as far as with the bay keepers and the regional board. I want to know, and I think the community deserves to know, what projects have we done? What capital improvement projects have we initiated? What have we completed? I also want to know about the costs from the design and the concept through to the management and conclusion of those projects. I think these are all things that transparency is important, education is crucial, and I think these times, unfortunately, brings it to light, and we need to bring it to light a lot sooner. So I'd like to see staff go back. I am not prepared to vote yes for the water, wastewater rates as they are. Garbage rates at the 2.34, considering they were going to be at 9.3, I am prepared to vote yes on that.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Well, I know for a fact that I make a lot less money than all of you sitting up here.
I don't have a job.
I barely have a job. I don't own a home. You know what? 3 years ago, my rent went up $400. When I moved to San Bruno, my payment was $1,100. I'm paying $2,400 now. I look at this thing and I figured it all out. $67.08 more a month in 2016. It's not that bad next year. It's only $14.58 a month. But you know what? What hasn't gotten higher? What hasn't gotten higher every single year in the past? So don't come to me and say, because I struggle every single month. Yeah, I sit up here looking like I'm, top of the world and can take care of everything and make all the big decisions. But that's what I voted in here, to sit here and make that decision, not based on what my personal life is about. You know, I bet you there's 11,000 households that don't want their rates raised. There's 350 that took the time to protest it. There's about 40 or 50 that came here to tell us, I'm not going to change your mind unless I vote no. But like she said, 16 years ago, we sat up here and we decided that we were voted to take care of the city. If we didn't make that decision 16 years ago, where would we be right now? The room would probably be packed. You know, but then again, maybe you could vote someone else, another majority on this council, to keep voting no. So I'm not going to vote no. You know, because why would I change what we started in 1998? Yeah, it's aggressive, and we're going to have a cap. Now, if staff comes forward and says that we can do things better, you know, I respect my colleagues that appear to to have questions about it. And yeah, if I get a compelling reason, we'll do what we did with garbage, and we'll reduce what we said. But based on this, if we're going to do it right, and if 84 years, if we got to take care of 84 years of neglect, then we can't stop now. Yeah, it's not exactly doom and gloom, but it's something that we have to be responsible, and I think the five of us have to be responsible. And staff has suffered. You know, we haven't had any good times, really, for the last 10 years, but we've made this city work. And you can surely, point out a lot of good things that have happened, during these bad times, during these difficult times. So I'm sorry. You want to go to the polls next time and vote me out? Fine. But I was voted to make these tough decisions, and you know what? I'm going to stay consistent with it.
Irene, anything else?
No, I think I've said it all.
All right, thank you.
Through the chair, if I can
Michael?
make one additional comment. To address the Vice Mayor's comment, I want to acknowledge the work that has been done by the city, and I think that it takes a lot of courage to make unpopular decisions. And one thing I also understand is that if I vote no, it's not a solution to the problem. It doesn't take away the crumbling infrastructure. It's not going to vanish. I have some ideas on how we might be able to restructure this, and I think that there might be a better way. And if I vote no, it's not that I'm not in favor of what you guys have done, because I do understand what we've set out to do. I think that there's going to be a point where we have to take a hard look at what it costs us to maintain this infrastructure and figure out what's the breaking point. Where does it even make sense to keep doing what we're doing? Something drastic may have to happen. With fire, we looked at merging fire departments. We looked at same thing with police, sharing services. Maybe we need to think outside the box, because it will get to a point where it's just going to be unsustainable. And the Vice Mayor, said everything is going up, and that's true. The city's costs for maintaining these pipes in the ground, it goes up every year. It gets more expensive to do it. The cost of water keeps going up. The price we pay to maintain the wells goes up. And this is water. We can't say, okay, we're going to just cut water. If it was cable, we stopped watching TV. But water, you can't just turn it off. You need the water. It's an essential part of what we need to live. And as a city, it's our duty to maintain this. It's one of the most basic needs that people have, and I think it falls into a whole different category of an expense. And so, I mean, I'd like to propose that, maybe we look at the sewer projects, which are definitely the more critical ones, and look at funding those, maybe even at something close to the rate that's being proposed. But maybe water can be held off. There's some infrastructure, close to half of what we're proposing here is going to go toward water. The water mains are breaking, but maybe we'll keep patching those for a couple more years till things turn around or we come up with a better solution, even if it's using some PG&E money to do that. I think we still should move forward with the cost adjustments that we made, the reallocating of the base price to make those things more equitable. I think that's something we could definitely move on. So I don't want to say I'm not in favor of everything. There are a lot of things here that we're proposing that some things are definitely needed. Some things I think are good ideas, but taking it as a whole, I think is not supportable.
Okay. All right. So you put yourself back in 2007, 2008 when the economy really tanks and everybody's hurting. And the economists all say, hey, 18 months to 2 years anyway. Then you go back to 10 and 11 and they're going 18 months to 2 years. And now we're into 12, and unless you have some kind of crystal ball, mine's pretty cloudy. I can't see the end of it. So I suppose for me, and you may not like it here, is that you pay me now or pay me later. And what's going to happen later, I don't know. But I do know what we have to do now. As Irene said, I was one of the members of the council at the time, the two of us, when we had to really bite the bullet. And we were pretty much told, if you don't get on board with these infrastructure improvements, you're really going to get hit later. And we have avoided a huge hit. You may think this is a big hit. Wait till Hetch Hetchy finishes up. Wait till Hetch Hetchy finishes up. We have a number of wells here that are really going to help us subsidize our existence here with water. But other cities, and I know it doesn't do you a damn bit of good to look at your pocketbook and compare yourself to another city because it's out of your pockets, not out of theirs. But there's some huge hits coming in other places. We've tried to manage this conservatively. The staff over the last 5 years has taken cuts. Somebody said maybe we could, cut personnel. We are down to bare bones. It's been very, very difficult, and there's not a lot of flexibility. But if we don't do what I feel we have to do here, we're just putting off the inevitable when maybe you're all going to be flush with cash and you won't care, but I don't think that's going to be the problem. I really think we have to do what we have to do this evening, and if in fact in 2 years, we all win the lottery, hey, there's nothing to prevent us from looking at this again. But the very frustrating thing for me, and I'll say it again, is when we get sued by organizations that are nothing but cottage industries, and they take that money from us that should have gone into fixing those pipes, and there's an example of one pipe back there that looks like a piece of Swiss cheese, and put it into the Rose Society or the Marine Mammal Center, and it doesn't go back into our streets. I don't want that to happen again, and in order to avoid that happening again, we have to pay to get this place up to where it should be. We've worked very hard for 16 years. I don't even want to put a stall on it now. And so if I'm the bad guy, but the bad guy has to pay the same rates as you do, I'm going to be in favor of these ordinances. So unless there's other comments or questions for staff, I'd like to ask the council to take some action.
Mayor
We're looking
Wayne?
for...
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I received a request from a resident that for specifically the water rate increase, that we forego our normal procedure of waiving the reading and actually read the terms of the ordinance. So I'll put that to the chair to consider entertaining that request.
What would you like to do? Normally we waive the first reading.
Mr. Mayor, can we take the one at a time and take A?
That's what we're going to do,
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
Right. Is there any objection to bringing item A forward? And if not, what is your pleasure? We're looking to waive the first reading and introduce the ordinance. And this is to hold a public hearing, waive the first reading, and introduce the ordinance opposing a 2.3% rate increase requested by Recology of San Bruno for 2012-2013 to be effective July 1st, 2012, as presented in the notice of proposed increase mailed to all property owners.
Mr. Mayor, is that with the understanding, too, that Recology staff and Peninsula Place will get together and review
Yes.
and look at the discrepancies or the concerns that were raised tonight?
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Is there a motion to waive the first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to waive the first reading on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
I'll introduce the ordinance for adoption. For garbage.
For garbage.
We're on garbage.
Which is item 8A.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell. Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item B, City Attorney, is there any protocol for a request from a citizen to read the
Well, what that would mean is that you'd have to read each and every word and line and dollar amount in the ordinance. If you wish to do that, you can certainly choose to do that. It's hard to determine whether that would actually provide any value to anybody other than delaying the meeting a little bit longer.
Okay. So what is the pleasure of the council on item 8B, which is to hold a public hearing, waive the first reading, and introduce the ordinances adjusting water and wastewater rates as presented in the notice of proposed increase mailed to all property owners?
Does the waiving of the reading need to be unanimous in order for that to be, or just majority? Thank you.
Is there any action regarding?
So moved to waive the first reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to waive the first reading on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
I'll introduce the ordinance to increase the water and wastewater.
There's two separate ordinances.
Water.
Okay, I'll start with water.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
No.
Councilmember Salazar.
No.
Would someone like to introduce the ordinance for wastewater rates?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to waive the first reading.
Second.
Motion second to waive the first reading. On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Introduce the ordinance for adoption.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
No.
Councilmember Salazar.
No.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, Councilmember Salazar.
I'd like some clarification from Mr. Zaffarano on the Prop 218 requirements on this. It says that these things require a two-thirds vote to pass, and if I calculate that out right, for us that would be about 3 1/3. So, do we round down or does that round up?
I don't believe that's the case, but let me look into that while you're moving to your next item, and I'll get back to you on that.
All right.